essentially, what I want to do tonight, more for John and Mike's benefit, although unless Mike's iPhone, I don't see Mike yet. What I essentially wanted to do, John, we've had the leadership of the fire department has rolled over now.
Yeah, I saw that.
And what that means for us is, guys in my generation are just it's time for us to kind of move along and let the younger people take over, which is essentially what's going on. So we have a new officer cadre. The chiefs now it's a triumvirate, so to speak. Kurt Ernst, who's a local attorney. I don't know if you know Kurt or not, but he's the chief. Tom is a kind of co-chief. Tom Yemp, I think you know. And then Dan Sells. I'm not sure if you know Dan. So the way they've done it is Kurt will be the county liaison and handle, most of the interactions with the county and the neighboring departments and that sort of thing. And then Tom will handle the interaction with the town council and budget and finance, and then this group. Tom couldn't make it tonight. He had to beg off. He had a prior commitment. And then Dan Sells is kind of our operations guy, if you can imagine that. He takes care of all the truck maintenance and runs the water supply during our fire calls and that sort of thing. So we've elevated a couple of people to the position of captain. One of them is Megan, who's here this evening, and another is Brian Wright, who I think you may know. He's also a policeman. Yeah, his parents lived in town, and so they're both great individuals. So that's essentially what's going on from the fire officer side. The president is a rotating position. Chris Collins is our new president. They do the administrative things. And here comes Luderbeck. So essentially, at the next town council meeting, we'll be introducing all those individuals, and you get to meet them. And I hope they'll all be there. I know Tom plans to be there. Hopefully, Kurt will be there as well, and Dan. So we'll introduce everybody to the whole council. It really won't change anything. I mean, I'll still be around. The other old fire officers are still going to be around. Nobody's walking away, but it'll just, and it's a good opportunity for the organization to mature. There's actually some guys coming up into lieutenant slots now that weren't officers before, which is really great. Just a good way to keep the thing growing. The other thing I wanted to talk about real briefly, we've got this capital plan that's coming up. I know John Coker's aware, and I know some of the fire personnel that are on tonight are aware as well. We actually at a meeting about 3 weeks ago or so, we announced and gave some information to the other town council individuals about some financial information about all the different departments in town, roughly where we think capital needs look for the coming 5 years or so, including the fire department issues. So, John, I know you've been involved with this long enough. So we've got really two significant capital needs. We had some sundry other ones. The SCBA units, we were able to get a grant. I announced that a couple of meetings ago. So actually, the SCBA gear is sitting in our station right now. So it actually showed up, which is fantastic. If you want to see how crowded the station is, wander in there. There's no room in there at all right now. But at any rate, so that was a wonderful thing. We got that federal grant for the SCBAs, along with a sister department, Michiana, and then the hazmat group for the county. But there will be some additional equipment that'll need to be purchased to make that operation work. We're going from 2,500-pound tanks to 4,500-pound tanks. What that means is you got a little more time in the house with your unit. But we do have to upgrade the capacity of the compressor that we have that refills the tanks, and probably have to buy some additional tanks. So there will be a little bit attached to that, even though we did get that $120-something thousand grant. But the big elephant in the room essentially are the station and the truck. We plugged into that capital plan kind of an amortization of those two items based on the numbers that we threw around over the last couple of years. And I know, John, you're familiar with it because we've been talking about it for quite a while. So really, the station is going to be somewhere south of $1 million, and the truck's going to be somewhere south of $750,000. We've heard numbers from $450 to $650, depending on which way we go. And I know you've expressed some interest in maybe trying to see about a demonstrator or a used truck or something like that. So we at this point, if we get the nod, if the town council on January 10th says to all these department heads, yes, we do want to proceed with the capital plan as we outlined it in principle. Then I think the fire commission can lead the charge on the station and the truck. And what that will mean, we'll have to go back and get some contractors involved, which we've done in the past and gotten some tight numbers, but we need to do that again, revisit that with a couple of, I know, John, you mentioned you wanted to have at least a couple of quotes, which even though we go with a design build concept, we can do that. So we've got Larson Danielson we've spoken to, we've already spoken to Chester, we haven't brought some of the other contractors in yet, but we certainly could. But I think we don't want to get too many involved. At least we'll get a couple, maybe a couple, three numbers.
Hey, John.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll keep my fingers crossed about everybody voting yay for the firehouse. But I didn't get an opportunity to, I wanted to tell the people that are leaving and the people that are coming in. It's, I wrote something up. It says that to all the retiring firemen, I know you most all very well, and I salute you.
Listen.
And I thank you for your service. May you and your family have a long life of happiness, and I thank you for your service. As it relates to all of the firemen and firewomen that have earned a promotion, I salute your dedication as a first responder, and may God always keep you safe. And that's all I wanted to say.
Thanks, Rick. Appreciate the sentiment very much.
Thanks, Rick.
And you've been around long enough to see some of the craziness that we've had to kind of put up with in terms of political heat and antagonism. And I think those days are over. I hope.
I hope so. I mean, we've been
the town. I think they've done a good job of accumulating some pretty decent reserves, and I think it's time to start being a little more proactive on capital in general. You know, we've got the plows, the town garage burned up. They bought some new plows. Then that meant they had to replace them both when they wore out. They actually kind of probably bought the wrong thing back then. But anyway, so I think
you know the heart and soul of Long Beach. I think one was our school, which we lost, and the second one is the firemen, and our firehouse needs some work, as you well know. And we've been talking about this for years and years and years, and I hope I'll keep my fingers crossed.
I think we're in a good place. I mean, I think, Mike Johnstone's been on the budget and finance. John's been on the fire commission, and he's danced in and out of the budget meetings as well. I don't know what your take on it is, John, but it seems to me like we've got a pretty good atmosphere right now. I don't know if you want to comment or not, but
yeah, I agree with you, and I'd second the point that there's no room in the fire station. I was at some meetings before I was even on the council. I forget what kind of meetings there were, but I mean, you can hardly wedge yourself into the building, much less into the little kitchen area you had for your meeting room. The trucks hardly fit in the building. I mean, these are old trucks. So, yeah, there needs to be some updates, that's for sure.
And I think there can be some synergy. We talked about expanding, and this was brought up at one of the council meetings. We can make this building accommodate other town uses if we're able to do the kind of addition we hope to do, and that wouldn't leave us with, a bigger meeting room. I mean, the town council quarters are pretty meager too. It'd be nice if this building would have a bigger meeting area that the whole town could make use of. So
absolutely.
Yeah, not to bring up Winnemac all the time, but they, when they built a new fire station, they've got a community room in there, and that's used for all sorts of meetings. And it's right next to where they keep all the fire trucks, but you can't get into the fire truck area where the trucks are. It's all, but it's well used, and I'd like to see if we're going to spend this kind of money, get it something more than just a place to park the fire trucks.
Yeah, you're right on.
So I think it'd be good if this group in the future can kind of spearhead the whole effort on the station and the truck. You know, Tom Dolph's heading up the street department. Greg's watching the water guys. They've all presented what they anticipate in the next 5 years for capital needs. So I think, you know, the firemen can do it, but I think it'd be good if this whole group would spearhead this effort. So getting the quotes in and helping with all that, I don't mind, you know, driving the bus a little bit, but as long as we're all on the same page, if people can help, I think we're going in the right direction. It won't be I don't think it's going to be that dramatic of an effort. Once we get the nod on the 10th, assuming we do, then I think we start making phone calls. You know, early spring's always a good time to tap contractors because they're hungry, and we can, you know, try to get some numbers in quickly and have something to present to the council in pretty short order. As far as the truck goes, it's about a 365-day window if you order, and that's even without the supply chain issues that the country's experiencing now. If we ordered a truck today, it would take a year before we'd see it under the original old rigmarole. Right now, I'm imagining that's extended. So we won't have to pay for the truck for a year. I think the station needs to be the priority for the immediate future. So,
John, do you see any reason why? Because I can see that maybe it would be a good thing, or it may not be a good thing. But I know the state fire marshal very, very well, and we had a bunch of people came over, and he was he's a very good speaker. And I don't know. I suppose we want to find out if we want to have him or not. But if you do, it might be something we could kick off if we're going to build a firehouse. He'd come.
I think that you know the PR aspect of this thing. I think maybe we didn't do such a hot job over the years, but I think that's a good thing, Rick. We could have an open house sort of thing, invite him and have, you know, we could all say a little quick thing and then have him give an idea of what's going on with the fire service in general. I think that's not a bad idea, like a campaign to kick off. And, you know, there's actually, believe it or not, we've had some pretty significant individuals in the town that have offered some financial help along this way too. I think if we announced a campaign and said the town was going to commit to X number of dollars, we may even get some assistance from private individuals to try to put this thing together and make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah, well, for sure, you're going to get more people probably attend whatever you're going to do. If you're going to say the state fire marshal's going to come up here, and he really can't. I'm impressed. I'm very impressed. We both went through a few fire marshals, but this guy is a smart cookie, and I think maybe in a closed session after the meeting, I mean, you can talk about. I know they have funds, and where they're going to spend the funds, I don't know. But you got to ask if you want.
Well, there's a lot of background noise right now about some of the, I call it Biden money. That's not really fair, but there's a huge influx of infrastructure money right now. The state's flush with it. If you've been watching what they've been doing for the county and some of these other areas, I think there's going to be some money floating around. I think you're right. We need to get. I think that's another thing that I'd like to see this group help with is, where those funds are and how do we get a hold of them.
Yeah.
The PR aspect on a situation like this is utmost of importance, because if it's PR'd right, you're going to get some objections, and the more positive information you put out up front, so they don't say, well, this isn't being transparent. We've heard that, John, how many times just with the sewer project? Jesus. But,
honest to God, John.
We've had public meetings for 4 years, but apparently.
I think they think we're all getting our pockets lined by somebody.
Yeah. We're getting a lot of money on these deals, let me tell you.
No, I think those are great ideas. And so maybe the thing to do is shortly after this is just my suggestion. I'm open to any suggestion. Maybe shortly after that January 10th meeting, assuming we get the nod, maybe a week or two after, or we can wait till the next one of these. If for everybody's benefit, there is a schedule now of all the future fire commission meetings, and we've been a little bit remiss in not doing those over time, but we didn't really have any nod from the council to make it pay off. So I'd say if we wanted to So this is January 4th. We could either wait till that first week in February, which probably would be fine. So maybe at our next fire commission meeting, we would brainstorm a little bit about things like financing.
Well, they had, I don't know how much they've spent, but they got out of the president, they basically got $6 billion. I'm used to asking for money and they go, we don't have any, we're broke. But they got $6 billion, or did have $6 billion. I don't know what you do ask for it, but I mean, it's, we get together, make a plan,
Ask for $1 million. They can always say no.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, believe it or not, and I know we haven't really talked too much about this, John, and I probably need to a little bit, but there is an outfit that this Mr. Rizvi, who's down on Lakeshore Drive, kind of hooked us up with, they have a proposal in front of us right now. We haven't really discussed it yet, but they are professionals at grant writing and getting the kind of money we're talking about. Not just, I mean, the fire department's had great success on, smaller grants with local funding sources. But when you start talking about looking for $1 million or a couple $1 million for these kinds of things, maybe having somebody professional might help us.
Absolutely.
I mean, if we have a public meeting like you're talking about, I mean, do we have some schematics, some diagrams as to what we're talking about so people can see what it is they're considering?
We actually presented it at one council meeting along.
Yeah, I remember.
It's not much. It's just a schematic. It's a face front elevation and a plan. And we're not held to that exactly, but I still think from a concept standpoint, that's still what we're after. So we've got them on, believe it or not, we've actually got them on hardboard. So we could show those at some sort of a meeting as early as February.
Right.
Now, granted, it's going to change a little bit once the contractors get involved, but it's, we don't have a lot of huge needs. I mean, once we decide on square footage and all that, it's not going to be a complicated
Right.
structure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that could be a part of it for February.
Well, you could always, instead of just, this room, a larger room, you could probably expand that just with something not as much as $1 million, but maybe $250,000 or something. You can have a nice room that the public can rent for whatever reason. Whether it's it could be anything, something good, for the community or whatever. So, if you don't want to do $1 million and you think, well, if you think you can get $1 million, take it. But I mean, right now, if you can go in there with something that's a little smaller, maybe we can make sure that we can get that room, and we'll name it after you.
Actually, really, when you think about it, I know, Rick, this square footage, once you start entertaining the idea of a building, to add some square footage is not a big cost difference. Once you get a shell up, to add another little bit of square footage inside a building is not tremendously expensive at the margins.
Yeah. Well, keep our fingers crossed.
Okay, well, that's really all I had tonight. If anybody has any questions or has anything they want to talk about, we'll shoot for that January meeting. John and I will be at that, and we'll be able to report. I'll send out to all the fire commission and all the individuals that were here tonight, some indication about how the January meeting goes. You're all obviously all welcome to attend. And then after that, once we get a commitment, then I think the February meeting will be very productive for us. We can start getting some brainstorming done and make some progress.
Good meeting.
All right. Anybody else?
Quit enjoying yourself, Larry.
I'm going to just assume
Hey.
pictures.
Most of the meetings I attend that are beach meetings aren't like this.
No. Especially the one we'll have a week from Friday. That'll be pleasant.
Oh, we have building
And it'll
commission.
be short like this.
They'll go 3 hours. We're like, oh my God, what the hell is wrong with us?
No, another 3 hours of my life wasted. No, not wasted.
So, John, what happened to our meeting tomorrow night? They bounced us to Friday, for God's sake.
Well, they apparently forgot to put it in the newspaper.
Oh, I figured that was it. All right. Okay.
And I don't know if we can get I haven't heard back from our guide as to whether those candidates are going to be able to juggle their schedules around Friday, which is the night you really like to have meetings, I know, on Friday.
Oh, man, I
Friday night.
couldn't believe it was Friday at 7. And I'm not even working anymore. I can't imagine the working stiffs here at Net. Anyway. All right, well, I don't have anything else for anybody. We're ready to roll. Good night. all.
Tell my little sweetheart that Megan Applegate that congratulations.
Thanks, Rick. I appreciate it.
Well, it goes without saying, she's a workaholic and a wonderful addition to the crowd. So
I'm gonna start calling you Captain.
That's fine.
Rick,
As long as I'm above Blake, all is well.
Think of it, this time of year, Megan's got all the time in the world to deal with
Yeah,
these things because,
absolutely.
her business is not too labor intensive now, is it? Or is it?
No, not at all. Taxes.
Okay, I got everything all screwed up, but it's been a bad year.
Rick, Megan actually runs all of us.
Yeah, I know. Believe me, Paul is. Well, I got rid of Paul a long time ago. I wanted Megan, but she told me that I should take Blake.
Yeah, he's second best. He'll do good.
Yeah,
that's why all of us old timers are rolling over on the fire department, so these youngsters can really start showing their stuff.
yeah, that's true. It's true.
Thanks, guys.
Sounds
All right.
great. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Take it easy. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.